Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today's video is going to be a bit about the collision that brought down the uh, Key Bridge. Francis Scott Key. Thank you. I think that's right. It's the guy who wrote the national anthem, essentially. But, so it's named after. Um, yeah. We're going to be taking a look at this. I've got some articles pulled up for you, but yeah. Some further knowledge here. This is not the first time this ship, the Dolly, is its name, D-A-L-I, as it says right here, was reportedly detained in Belgium after scraping the side of quay and significantly damaging the hull in good weather. This was Antwerp, Belgium. So yeah. That was 2016. So it's not the first time they've had an accident with this ship. Now, taking a look at it, they give you an idea of how big it is. 985 feet in length. If you stood it on its end, it'd be almost as big as the Eiffel Tower. So it's not a small ship. And it's the fact that it is so big is why it brought down the bridge. Because it was only moving at about 8 knots or 9 miles per hour, 15 kilometers per hour. So again, wasn't moving quick, but where it's so big, it didn't take much. Yeah. The Dolly apparently passed a June 2023 inspection in Chile. A faulty pressure gauge for the fuel heaters was identified but fixed before the vessel left the port, according to authorities. The Dolly was then inspected in September by the U.S. Coast Guard in New York, and no problems were found. Before it left Baltimore, the ship underwent routine engine maintenance, according to the Coast Guard. The federal and state officials say the crash appears to be an accident. Again, we've got no confirmation on exactly what went down. Coast Guard has downloaded the voyage data recorder and sent it to the National Transportation Safety Board, which is building a timeline of what led to the crash, and a preliminary report is expected in coming weeks. But yeah. But essentially, 13 containers on the ship were seen to have found damage, according to investigators. And the ship itself will be towed back to the port and cargo offloaded. But yeah. Those are some quick notes. Now, this is something I wanted us to take a look at. From the lever. Feds recently hit cargo giant in Baltimore disaster for silencing whistleblowers. Regulators cited Maersk for its illegal policy blocking employees from reporting safety concerns to the Coast Guard. So even if they had concerns, they couldn't have really said anything if there's something they wanted to bring to the attention of inspectors. The company that chartered the cargo ship that destroyed the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore was recently sanctioned by regulators for blocking its employees from directly reporting safety concerns to the U.S. Coast Guard, in violation of a seaman whistleblower protection law, according to the regulatory filings reviewed by the lever. 8 months before, a Maersk Line Limited chartered cargo ship crashed into the Baltimore Bridge, likely killing 6 people and injuring others. The Labor Department sanctioned the shipping conglomerate for retaliating against an employee who reported unsafe working conditions aboard a Maersk-operated boat. In its order, the department found that Maersk had a policy that requires employees to first report their concerns to Maersk prior to reporting it to the Coast Guard or other authorities. Federal regulators at the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, which operates under the Labor Department, called the policy repugnant and a reprehensible and an egregious violation of the rights of employees, which chills them from contacting the Coast Guard or other authorities without contacting the company first. Maersk's reporting policy, approved by company executives, federal regulators found in their investigation into the incident. Maersk's vice president of labor relations admits that this reporting policy requires seamen to report safety concerns to the company and allow it time to abate the conditions before reporting to the Coast Guard or other regulatory agencies. So it's like, tell us first so we can get it fixed up real quick so that when the inspectors do come, they don't find anything. During their investigation into Maersk, federal officials said there was reasonable cause to believe that the company's policy violated the Seamen's Protected Act, which protects maritime workers who speak out about unsafe working conditions. Officials ordered the company to reinstate the employee and pay over $700,000 in damages and back wages. They also demanded that Maersk revise its policy to allow seamen to contact the Coast Guard about safety concerns before notifying the company. So, if one of the boat workers had a concern, they shouldn't have to wait to tell their companies, like, look, I'm worried about this or that right now. And so they can contact the Coast Guard to let them know. The fired employee was a chief mate on the submarine Mafati, a Maersk-operated vessel, who also served as a relief captain when needed. The seaman reported unrepaired leaks, unpermitted alcohol consumption on board, inoperable lifeboats, faulty emergency fire suppression equipment, and other issues. So yeah, these seem like pretty important things to have paid attention to on a boat. You don't want people during their work hours consuming alcohol. You don't want leaks in a boat, which is supposed to be leak proof because it's on the water. You want to be able to suppress a fire, because if you don't, it can get out of control and then boom, your boat goes down. And then, of course, you want your lifeboats to function. That was one of the reasons so many lives were lost on the Titanic. Before he was fired, the employee was disciplined for not properly maintaining the logbook and failing to properly follow orders. The fired employee told federal regulators that he believed these disciplinary actions were retaliation for reporting alcohol consumption on board the vessel. Maersk did not respond to Lever questions about the Labor Department's findings and its previous policy on workplace safety reporting ahead of publication. In a comment to other news outlets, Maersk stated, "We are horrified by what has happened in Baltimore, and our thoughts are with all those affected. We can confirm that the container vessel Dolly, operated by charter vessel company Synergy Group, is time chartered by Maersk and is carrying Maersk customers' cargo. No Maersk crew and personnel were on board the vessel. We are closely following the investigation conducted by the authorities and Synergy, and we will do our utmost to keep our customers informed." The Seamen's Protection Act was enacted in 1984 to protect maritime workers who reported statutory violations on the to the Coast Guard from company retaliation. These employees had been left out of other whistleblower laws at the time. In 2010, the legislation was amended to also safeguard employees who refused to perform certain duties due to fear of personal injury. Yeah, I mean, it's how currently our companies work. You're afraid of hurting yourself? No. Don't we pay you $2 an hour? Get to work. It's more or less how it's done. Enforced by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, companies that violate the Seamen's Protection Act can be subject to hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. The Coast Guard also encourages employees to report any hazardous conditions before it results in a costly mishap. Despite the law explicitly protecting maritime employees from workplace abuses, including whistleblower retaliation, experts say there have been relatively few whistleblower complaints. In 2017, a case involving the Seamen's Protection Act made it to the Supreme Court, seeking to protect a New York harbor worker, a persistent safety advocate, who had been fired after reporting dangerous conditions, though the court declined to hear the case. Of course they did. Many maritime employers have similar policy that prevents employees from directly contacting the Coast Guard or other regulatory agencies, according to Eric Ryan, a lawyer specializing in maritime injuries, aviation accident claims, and other issues at the Spagnoletti law firm. In a blog post, Ryan highlighted a previous whistleblower retaliation case that found it was standard business practice for employers to prohibit any direct contact by employees with government regulatory bodies. Ryan also delighted that maritime employees who face many work hazards have a right to report unsafe conditions aboard their vessels to federal regulators. So, yeah, sometimes accidents occur when they could have been avoided if proper and reasonable care had been taken by those responsible for safe working conditions, Ryan wrote. These accidents can leave employees with lasting impairment that prevents them from ever working again. Of course, even worse, they can be deadly. Total collapse. The vessel that crashed into the Baltimore Bridge, Dolly, was chartered by Maersk and operated by Synergy Marine Group, a ship management company based in Singapore. The ship had a crew of 22 foreign workers from India. The boat is owned by Grace Ocean Private Limited and was headed to Sri Lanka. Maersk, which is headquartered in Copenhagen, Denmark, is one of the world's largest shipping companies, reporting more than 51 billion in revenue and in 2023. The company operates in 130 countries and employs 100,000 workers according to its annual report. As of December 2023, Maersk owned 310 ships and was chartering 362, which they say is one of the world's largest container shipping fleets. Since 2021, Maersk has spent $2.7 million lobbying Congress and federal regulators on worker compensation, as well as port congestion and infrastructure issues, among other concerns, regulatory filings show. Since last summer, Maersk has been battling the International Longshoremen's Association, a labor union that represents 65,000 maritime workers, including Maersk employees, over labor unrest at a port in Alabama. In August 2023, APM Terminals, a division of Maersk, sued the union, claiming that workers at Mobile, Alabama port were on strike illegally during an active contract. The court case is ongoing. The documents filed by the union, in which in March alleged that the company illegally suspended 6 workers for raising a concern about a safety issue at the job site. As of publication time, rescuers have suspended the search for 6 missing construction workers who were working on the Baltimore Bridge at the time of the collapse. The workers are presumed dead, officials said. One body was reportedly recovered from the river on Tuesday. But yeah. So, again, you can see the greed by such a company in this. They don't want issues brought up to inspectors, to regulatory groups. Even though it is the right of a maritime worker to express concerns over these issues. We mentioned it had a similar collision in Antwerp, Belgium. So, yeah. It's the likelihood that they were hiding something that they probably even knew about, because it may have been brought up to the company before, is definitely a realistic one. So, yeah. This may be an issue of corporate malfeasance that hunt for more monetary gain over anything else. And honestly, I feel that's where it lies. That's where I feel most of the issues in this collision are set. Corporate greed. But, yeah. I just wanted to talk about this with you all. Read you this article, bring you some more articles to look at. But, as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.